Let's lead us to the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Record show all board members are present. Mr. Board, has public notice been given?
It has. This is a rescheduled meeting from December 10th, and then since then we've also revised the agenda to add a couple of things as well. So, but it has been properly noticed.
Thank you. On to shout outs and celebrations.
Okay, an opportunity here for some folks to give some shout outs, and I've got two of them here. The first one is a student of ours, Charlie Bailey. Charlie, if you just push the microphone on the, there should be one of these sitting up there. Oh, and just push it so it turns green. Perfect, thank you.
Should I hold it?
Oh, you're fine.
I'd like to use this time to give a much-deserved thank you shout-out to our strength and conditioning coaches, Brady Ewing, Mr. Troxel, and Mr. Diggs. The dedication they show day in and day out is inspiring. From early morning workouts to afternoon lifting, they are there for our athletes. I can speak for a lot of people and say we deeply appreciate their hard work, and I also want to acknowledge any extra helpers who have contributed their time. The results of their dedication speak for themselves. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. And the second one that I have is from Brenda Coleman.
My name is Brenda Coleman, and I'm an administrative assistant in our district office. I'd like to give a shout out to our marketing director, Carrie Stoltz. I recently asked Carrie for help in creating a more welcoming and informative election packet for our community members interested in running for the school board in the upcoming spring election. Carrie jumped right in, and the final packets turned out excellent. They're very professional, clear, and truly something we can be proud of to share with our community when they come in. Carrie also helped me put together the little information center that you find as you enter the IMC for community members attending our board meetings. She helped create the documents available at the table and making everything just organized, accessible, and inviting. And I really appreciate Carrie and her willingness to help wherever needed. She's always smiling, always supportive, and we're very fortunate to have her in our district. Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you. On to then public comment for policy 0167.3. Anyone wishing to participate in the period of public comment must be a resident of the Richland School District, a parent or legal guardian of an enrolled district student or an enrolled district student. Persons wishing to participate must be physically present at the meeting and must register in advance. A total time allotment of 30 minutes will be given for public comment. Each participant shall be given 3 minutes to address the board. Speakers are not permitted to make inflammatory comments, use inappropriate language or gestures, attack specific persons, or make a specific person the subject of their remarks. Please see policy 0167.3 for a complete list of requirements and restrictions. If a person is unable to adhere to these rules, they may be directed to end their comments. Mrs. Coleman?
I have no public comment.
Thank you. On to reports. District Administrator's report.
Okay, just a couple of things. Tomorrow is our last day with students and staff until 2026, when they will return on Monday, January 5th. So district office will still be open on Friday, and then as well as Monday and Tuesday of next week. And then New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve, since they fall during the week, there are no alternate holiday breaks. They'll be closed on the 24th, 25th, December 31st, and January 1st. District office and our building offices, where there are full-time people, which all of our buildings have, they will all be open on those other days. Okay. Secondly, elections are coming up here, and again, we have 3 seats open. Those of you who are currently incumbents and are sitting in a seat, you will have until December 30th to put in a notice of non-candidacy. If you are choosing to not run, you would need to let us know by December 30th so that we can notify the public that there's an incumbent that is not running. And then anybody who is looking to run for any of our seats available, those are due at 5 p.m. on January 6th. And so the district office will stay open on Tuesday, January 6th until 5 p.m. For anyone to submit those paperwork. Of course, you don't have to wait until the deadlines. As Ms. Coleman stated, we do have folders available for anyone who's interested in running. They can pick those up at the district office during our normal business hours. Incumbents, you should also, if you haven't received them already, we will be getting you those folders and making sure that you have what you need as well. And then elections will happen in April. If there are enough people to run for any election seat, then there may be a primary. It's been a while since we've had a primary, but that is a possibility as well. And then the last thing, just to give you an update on the campus, we had put out an RFP, a request for proposals, for surveying work to be done. That needed to be submitted to the district by December 12th for surveying work to be completed no later than January 16th. We received no formal proposals back. Did get some feedback that it was just too quick of a turnaround time for this time of year. And so since then, I've reached out to local firms as well as those that the district has done work with before. I think there were 5 in total, and said, just get us a proposal, what will it cost, and when could you have it completed? All right, and 3 of them said that we will get you something, and I've given them until the end of the day tomorrow. And so they've said that they would provide that. So we should have at least 3 bids or proposals to look at, and I'm sure it will be a balancing act between the cost and when will it get done, right? I don't think we're necessarily going to save it a little bit if it's not going to be done until August, per se. The county is covering that cost, so we no cost to the school district for that. That's part of the grant that they have to transition the county into something else, or the campus into something else. So ultimately, the county will weigh in on that, but I've kind of taken the lead just to make sure that it's continued to move along. So those are the 3 things that I have for the board and our public. I'm happy to answer any questions if any board members have any. Super, thank you.
Student council report.
Mr. Culver here tonight.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kieran Culver. I am a senior here at RCHS and the president of Student Council. Our committees have stayed very busy the past 2 months, successfully completing many projects. Our events committee hosted a holiday movie night and toy drive on December 13th. Our fundraising committee held a candy cane grand sale for the holidays and has worked on delivering those this week. They also organized our council-wide wrestling concessions, the main fundraising for our council, which we held this last Saturday, December 20th. Our community service committee gave care packages and thank you cards to veterans during the school's Veterans Day assembly, and they also held a very successful school-wide holiday food drive to support our school's snack pack program in student services. Our school service committee has worked on continuing our council period project and is aiding in school-wide activities tomorrow afternoon before we go on break. Going forward, we are looking into collaborating with the middle school student council in the new year. And that's all I have for you tonight. Are there any questions I can answer? Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, this is under the revised agenda, property tax information.
Yeah, so we try to always give the board and our public an update on property taxes. Of course, this was originally scheduled for December 10th, and at that time, property taxes hadn't been released to all the municipalities. So then when it was rescheduled for tonight, this was one of the revisions, as Mr. Amihan pointed out. So with that, I'll turn this over to Mr. Bosworth. Those of you who have board docs open, there has been some PDFs that have been added here recently. If you've got a paper copy, obviously, they may not be in there.
They would not be in the paper copy, but they have been uploaded into board docs. So, Mr. Board thought it would be a good idea if we just touched a little bit on property taxes. And so the first part of this will be rather conceptual, and then we'll show some specific numbers when we're done here. So Property taxes can be difficult to understand, and to compound the problem, we typically only think about them one time a year. So as much time as we spend trying to explain them, often people forget that, and then we need to try to help again the next year. So generally we see 3 questions from people when they get their bill. Why did it change from last year? Why did my friend's bill on the other side of the county go down and mine went up? And why did my bill change more than my next door neighbor's? Those are kind of the 3 typical questions that we get, all right? So first of all, why did my bill change from last year? If somebody's bill changed from last year, and essentially they change every year, right? We know that. Nobody has ever, it's unlikely someone has ever gotten exactly the same tax bill that they got the year before. One of these things is probably happening, if not 2, maybe all 3 are happening for any person on any given year from one to the next. The levy changed. Every year levies change. Quite often they go up. Municipalities change their costs as the outside costs increase. Apologies for that. The municipality's percentage changed. We'll get into a little bit of that more in specific. And sometimes property is reassessed. So it could be any of these. It could be 2 of them. It could be all 3. And when it's 2 or 3, it makes it extremely difficult to try to help somebody understand why their bill changed the amount that it did. Regardless, hopefully what we talk about tonight will help a little bit. So that's why it would have changed, just generally speaking, one of those 3 things, or maybe all 3. The second thing is, why did my friend's bill on this side of the county go down, but mine went up? Every year, the Department of Revenue assigns a value to all the property. Everybody pays property taxes based on the value of their property. The value that's either what the Department of Revenue looks at it as, or maybe what your local municipality had it assessed at. Regardless, the point of property taxes is that people pay their fair share. They don't all pay an equal dollar. They pay money based on the value of their property. If somebody has more property or more valuable property, they'll pay a larger share of the taxes versus somebody else. So every year, the Department of Revenue says this is what we think all this value is worth in all these various municipalities, and then they come up with these percentages. And so whatever the total levy is, maybe the school levy is 10 million, maybe the county levy is 15 million, whatever it is, each municipality has a percentage based on their overall property value that they're responsible for. So in this example, or this real simple example, if it actually came out this way, 5 municipalities, all their property came out equal, they'd all pay an equal share. Maybe it was a $10 million levy, each municipality would be on the hook to pay $2 million. But what happens every single year is those percentages change. The value in your municipality changes in the eyes of the Department of Revenue. Why does it change? Sometimes new property is added, new additions are put in, but often it's just simply based on property sales and maybe inflation. So if this was, maybe if
that microphone is on the touch screen, that may be causing some problems. We still got to be able to hear you.
haven't had it on yet, so I think we're okay. So in this example, if you lived in municipality D and your friend lived in municipality E, their share changed compared to last year. They opened up their tax bill, they probably went down, you open yours up, yours probably went up. So again, if it's a $10 million levy and maybe it stayed the same from one year to the next year municipality D would be responsible for paying $2.6 million, divided amongst all the landowners in that municipality. Municipality E would only have $1.4 million that year. Most likely their people's tax bills would have decreased. So that's why somebody in the city is saying, but these, my friend lives in Dayton and their tax bill went down, but mine went up. The percentage has changed. And we'll look at some specific numbers here in just a little bit. And then the last one is, why did my tax bill change more than my next door neighbor's? We're in the same municipality. Mine went up by $800, his went up by $100. Why is that? We're both in the same municipality, we both got assessed. Well, that one has probably more to do with assessment. So all municipalities have properties assessed so that they can divide their own levy. Every municipality has money they need to run their operations. And then they also need to take their share of these bigger ones, like the school, the county, the tech college. They have to take their share, and they also have to divide that among their landowners. And again, people who have property valued more will pay more and pay their fair share. So if your municipality was just recently assessed, again, you and your neighbor were assessed, probably your homes didn't increase at the same rate. If they had increased at the same rate, your property tax bills would have increased at the same rate. But if your property went up by more than your neighbor's property went up, then your bill is going to increase more. So reassessment changes how the levy is shared. It doesn't change the levy itself. The levy is what the levy is. The city, the municipality decides we need $250,000, that's our levy. The school decides we need $10 million, that's our levy. It's just, it is what it is. But again, the property values, both as a percentage by municipality and as an individual homeowner, can change from year to year. And that's why municipality taxes can change and even individual homeowners' taxes can change. And then finally, why did the school levy go up? Most levies go up, most levies went up, ours went up, but specifically, why did ours go up? Okay, school funding comes from two main sources. It comes from state aid and property taxes. And how much money we're allowed to bring in for revenue is determined by a formula. The school board really doesn't have a lot of control over what the revenue is. That's mainly determined by the number of students. There's a formula. There's a giant spreadsheet and there's a formula, and there's really not much to it. It is what it is. However, what can change from year to year is how much state aid we get from the state. So, if, and this is an extreme example, but if state aid were to decrease, in order to maintain the same level of revenue, the property taxes are going to have to increase. Hopefully the bucket example helps us see that. And then specifically what happened in our district, and this is conceptual, we'll look at some specific numbers. Generally speaking, what happened to make our levy go up, the bucket really didn't change that much. It changed slightly. It got a little bit bigger, but not too much. But the state aid decreased, and also the dollar value collected for the private school system, called the voucher system across the state, that increased. So the school levy, school revenue increased slightly, the school choice voucher increased slightly, and the state aid decreased slightly. So we got two adds and then also less state aid. All those three resulted in our tax levy going up. So again, property taxes can be somewhat confusing, but I'm guessing if people are asking questions, it's probably one of those three questions. Why did someone across the county have different than mine? Why is my next door neighbor's different? Or why did the school levy go up? Hopefully you have some information to give them. And now to maybe look at some specific things here. So here's the last 3 years. I know it can be kind of hard to see, but the total levy, you can see in 23-24 was about 9.7 million, 24-25, basically 10 million, and then this year about 10.4 million. But what's more important to look at on this screen is look at the percentages. example, we just looked at the very top row, Town of Aiken, 23-24, they were responsible for 4.35% of the levy. The next year it went up, they were responsible for 4.72. This year it went down, 4.65. Every year those percentages change. Every year a municipality has a different percentage that they're responsible for. About 2/3 of the way down there, see Richland Center, City of. The city was 37.9 in 23-24, then it dropped to 35.76. It's a pretty big drop. Even though the levy went up in that year, the city actually paid less taxes than it did the previous year. Again, that's all based on Department of Revenue property value percentages. And then this year, the city is up to 37.1%, and the dollar value increased also. So, and there are some decreases. I think Town of Dayton was at 8.13%, went to 8.44, dropped to 7.13. That's a pretty distinct drop. And then it's just all the shifting and the property values, and usually it's just because now the Department of Revenue feels like the property over here is now worth more. They're not necessarily saying your property is not as valuable as it used to be, but probably another municipality now they're saying, well, we got more home sale, we got more property sale data here, and now we're going to increase the value in this one, and it shifts the percentages. So there's that, and then the final thing I wanted to show you is take a look at the revenue limit very generally. I know this is kind of small, but like I said, the revenue limit is a formula. It's a big giant spreadsheet, and we really don't have a lot of say in it. It's really determined by the number of students. But if we just look at last year to this year, what are some of the key changes? Well, the first one is the total levy. Went from 10.03 million to 10.4 million, so the whole levy went up about $382,000. We've talked about this before when we passed the budget. This is nothing new. But just to dig into it a little bit to try to help people understand, what were some of the changes? Well, I mentioned that voucher, private school funding, went from $909,000 to about $1.2 million. So there's an increase of about $273,000. That's a substantial increase. The revenue limit of the school district went from $19.17 million to $19.46 million. So our revenue limit authority increased. And generally we feel like that's a positive scenario because we've been allowed to bring in more revenue and we can spend that positively, productively. But depending upon how much state aid we receive, right, that can be viewed differently. And if state aid goes down, well, then that actually increases taxes. If state aid increased, then everybody thinks it's a win-win. And then a couple other things. Here I said the state aid decreased from 11.4 million down to 11.35 million, so there's a slight decrease in the state aid. And then a couple of things that the board actually has some control over was the board proposed and the community passed 2 referendums. So we knew last year we had 2.3 in additional revenue, this year it's 2.4, so we knew that was going to be an additional $100,000. And the other, the capital referendum, we need to collect money to pay those debts, right? We don't have a choice in that matter, but you can see that the change is basically 0. So there was no change in the amount of money that the school collected to be paying its debts. All right, there's a lot. Some of it was reviewed from what we've already talked about, but maybe you've had some of those 3 questions. Hopefully this will help you answer some of those, and maybe you'll have some specific numbers to give people as well. Is there any questions that I could answer?
High school under-enrolled classes for quarter 2, 2025-26.
Okay, hopefully you got an opportunity to see or listen to at least a presentation from high school administration. Anytime we have a course offering that has fewer than 10 students, enrolled in it, and this is for quarter 2. Our policy says that the board should be aware of that, and so that's what this is. You've got some additional information over to the right of each one of those on kind of a high-level reason why, but I would offer the board an opportunity to answer any questions, or ask any questions. Our high school administration is here, and you can certainly weigh in on that as well. But that's generally the report that you've seen before. This is information as it relates to quarter 2. Questions from the board?
Excuse me, biggest question is, when there's multiple offerings of the same course, at what point is it, just to pick the 7th-8th grade yearbook, at what point do we say that we have 3 other sections of that, we're going to adopt this 4th one? I understand scheduling is always an issue, but at some point, is there consideration for just eliminating that, or maybe shifting when classes are offered?
Yeah, we're already looking at the schedule for next year to meet with our counselors to say, if it was here, would it be better? Or, if we run into issues where you'd think, like, if we had it at this period, it would work better, but oftentimes our band and choir also drive that, and there's so many kids in middle school in those, so we want to offer those other offerings at different times that they can have them, but we definitely work to either assign them something else, or in an instance, use as a teacher, the captain seminar, we might have them run 2 at the same time, if we can do some of that too, but it's really a puzzle sometimes. We want to give those opportunities, and we have gone down middle school electives just since last year. We cut a few of them to try to make those sections integrated.
Has there been consideration for moving away from block scheduling to help alleviate some of that, whether it's going to a hybrid type schedule or back to a 7 or 8 hour, possibly even a 9 hour?
Yeah, our middle school is in full 9-hour day right now, so there's no block offering for them at this point. There is also a hybrid for our high school students, so there's not quite half and half, but a lot of, they're called skinnies, offered throughout the schedule. I think a couple years ago now, Mrs. Burns and I went to a whole bunch of different districts in the area to see and learn about their schedules, specifically ones that had 8 or 9 period days or 10 period days, and ones that did an A-B block, and try to find the perfect schedule. What we found is it doesn't exist, and there's pros and cons to each. The big con for our high schoolers going to an 8-9 period day every day is you just increase their amount of classes they take at a time, right? And there's a lot of pros to that as well, so we're always looking at that. We're always flirting with making a change, but we wanted to live in one world pretty consistently to see what's working and what's not before we make a whole bunch of changes and blow everything up. You have no idea what works and what doesn't.
Thank you.
Annual safety report.
Okay, so Mr. Josem is in charge of our school safety. He's responsible for uploading documents to the Department of Justice, or the Office of School Safety, part of the Department of Justice. That has to be done by January 1st. Part of the state statutes say that the board needs to be aware of the school safety report. This is part of Wisconsin Act 143. If you listened to this, you heard that Mr. Josem said the school uses the model of I Love You Guys, that model, which uses standard response protocols. We held school violence drills before students were here during in-service, August 23rd through the 27th. We did that in conjunction with RCPD and through our community resource officer. And then also, whenever we have any of these, we do staff debriefings, and we get feedback from staff and allow them to provide feedback, what worked, and as they get into their isolated incident. And it's not always huge, enormous, threats, but it's any kind of a threat that may compromise our school safety. So we're constantly evaluating that. This is part of our annual review. Mr. Josem is not here, but if you had any questions, I'm happy to take them down. and get them to him, and we can get you an answer, and the rest of the board. I will also add that in the administrative content, it's not available for public view, is our continuity of organizational operations plan. And this lists a little bit more of the specifics as far as what we as a school district do during certain crises, okay? And by state law, we're allowed to keep that private because it would be advantageous to an intruder if they knew how we were going to respond should something bad happen. So it is there for the board to review under the administrative content, but not the public. Any questions that you have that I can relay to Mr. Josem or try to answer myself? Okay, if any come up, as always, feel free to let me know. Thank you.
High school draft course descriptions.
Okay, this was a presentation by Dr. Johnson. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because this is just a draft. This is an opportunity for you to get the first look at the 26-27 course offerings here at the high school. But if you do have any questions about how to read something or what happened here, I don't understand that, certainly please ask them now. But the board will certainly have an opportunity to weigh in a little bit more formally in the future as we look to formalize and finalize this so that scheduling can start to happen as we get in to the second part of the school year. But anything, I missed anything, Sherry? I mean, I love it. Board members, anything that you have a question on, anything? Okay. Similarly to all the reports, if something comes up, just please let us know and we'll get you those answers. Thank you.
ACT 20 update.
Okay, so this is our Act 20 update. If you got a chance to review that, hopefully you did. Dr. Johnson talked about a lot of different things, the Act 20 requirements in place as it relates to early literacy, a remediation plan, etc. We talked about some budget impact, mainly from the Into Reading, another cost, Ames Web. Some of those things were free or minimal, but some of the financial components of it. She mentioned some K-3 screening system, how we use that in diagnostics for students below the 25th percentile, and then some of the early results and what we do with if there are fewer students that fall below benchmark after the spring to fall transition, and some of those early results. It's an ongoing process. Dr. Johnson is here. She is the expert on Act 20. I am not. That's just a high level view, but hopefully you got an opportunity to watch the presentation, see the slideshow, and if you have any questions, that would be a great time.
With the fall 25, you mentioned that there were re-normed. In just your professional opinion with that, just looking at the numbers, it looks like they lowered the requirements. Is that fair to say, or is it just that we've actually done a really good job of getting our kids progressed with their learning?
I would say it's a combination of both. But what by renorming is really looking at national norms. So prior to COVID are where these norms stood originally. And so as a nation, norms have changed as far as student ability and expectations. And so they've now since renormed them. So we had like some of our classes had a quarter of students lacking as below the 25th percentile, and now we're at less than 5% in most of the classes. So yeah, it really did look different, but we are also working really hard at growing student skills.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thanks to everyone who put reports together. I know this was a long opportunity, but hopefully the board had a chance to review it.
On to the minutes. Is there a motion to approve prior meeting minutes of November 12th, 2025?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Gillian. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Troxel. Discussion? Mr. Gillian?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye. Okay, on to financial items. Approval of statement of cash and invoices.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the statement of cash dated December 1st, 2025, approved committee first bank and general checking account. Checks number 87742 to 87863, ACH number 252603 970 through 252 604 171, EFT number 2025 00010 through 202 5000141, for a net total of $1,622,061.72. This is for the purpose of general operating costs of the district.
Motion was made by Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Sheriff. Mr. Bosworth, anything you want to point out or add?
Nothing to really add in particular about the invoices, but consider that it is a month's worth, so the dollar value may be a little bit larger than you're used to seeing. It's a month's worth of expenses.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mrs. Sheriff? Aye.
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 Mrs. Coleman, consent agenda items.
Motion to approve the consent agenda items. Motion to accept the donation of a Nordic Track elliptical machine valued at approximately $300 from Mercy Jelinek. Motion to accept the donation of money valued at $100 from Kelly's Coffee House. Motion to accept the donation of money valued at $100 from Wallace, Cooper, and Elliott. Motion to accept the donation of money valued at $100 from Royal Bank. Motion to accept the donation of money valued at $100 from Kramer's Water Store Incorporated. Motion to accept the donation of money valued at $300 from Park Street Christian Church. Motion to accept the donation of money valued at $556.31 from the All-American Do-It Center. Motion to accept the donation of money valued at $199.66 from the Sheila Troxel and Andrew Troxel family. Motion to accept the donation of money valued at $920 from Amber Warmless and community members. Motion to accept the donation of an Amazon gift card valued at $200 from American Legion Auxiliary Unit 13. Motion to accept the donation of winter waterproof gloves valued at approximately $390 from Church of the Nazarene. Motion to approve the 66.0301 agreement between Richland School District and Ithaca School District for cross-country for the 2026-27 school year as presented. Motion to approve RCHS participating in the short-term exchange program from Nuestra Senora de Las Nieves High School in Argentina through NISO Open Door in January and February of 2025. And motion to approve 1 open enrollment in application and 3 open enrollment out applications for the 2025-26 school year as presented.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
Before there's a motion, just one quick motion. The motion on the Argentina short-term program is not through the cell open door, it's through Flag Step. Okay, so the motion should reflect that it's with Flag Step, not the cell open door. The cell open door was our former one. So.
Is there a motion then to approve the consent agenda items with change of Flag Step and not myself open door?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mrs. Sharp. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Thompson, discussion?
Are there concerns at all with the change on the exchange program and the timing of moving this way for approval?
As I let the board know, anytime there's a foreign exchange program after August 15th, it requires 2 approvals, one from myself, one from the board. I gave the go-ahead for the foreign exchange program to start planning this, and then they'll get final approval tonight. And as long as all of that happens, the timing will be just fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. They are looking for host families. Shameless plug.
Contact Kathy Fry.
All right, any other discussion? Mr.
Aye.
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 On behalf of the board, I would like to thank Marcia Jelenic, Kelly's Coffee House, Wallace Cooper and Elliott, Royal Bank, Kramer's Water Store Incorporated, Park Street Christian Church, All-American Dude Center, Sheila Troxel and Andrew Troxel family, Amber Wanless and community members, American Legion Auxiliary Unit 13, and the Church of the Nazarene for their generous donations. Is there a motion to approve the modified agenda?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Bellinger, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Miller. Discussion? Mr. Miller?
Aye.
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 On to information and discussion items, district vacancies and appointments.
Okay, just a handful. We've got a couple of cross-categorical teachers positions open. We actually thought we might be able to get interviews done today, but just with absences and the holidays, it'll be right after the first of the year. We've also got a behavioral tech there. The Drug-Free Community Project Coordinator, I'm now in a position where I can say that we've been in communication with the Richland Hospital in taking over this grant. We're optimistic that this would happen. After meeting with them, I'm even more optimistic. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the grant to continue in a place that is extremely concerned about public health. Okay, there are still some I's to dot and T's to cross, so it's not official, but we are extremely optimistic. We're working with the grant experts at the federal level to find out all the different things that need to happen through that transition. The foundation, the Richland Hospital will need to formally act on it once we get all of the I's dotted and the T's crossed, but that is where we're at with that right now. I'm excited that this is has a high probability of coming to fruition without putting any undue pressure on the hospital. As a result, the Richland School District is going to continue to keep the Drug-Free Community Project Coordinator on hold, knowing that if that transitions to them, they would take the lead on filling that position. And they've probably got a lot more avenues and resources to reach out to people who fit that mold more than an educational facility. Other than that, we're sitting in a pretty good spot. Staffing, we'll be working quickly in the near future on 26-27 staffing plans, but this is where it sits today for the 25-26. Any questions from the board? Awesome, thank you.
2024 RSD Foundation Financial Report.
Okay, this is, as the agenda item states, from the foundation. It probably could have gone on consent, but I felt it needed a little bit more of an explanation. Every year, the foundation, which is a partner to the school district, part of their bylaws say that the board has to review this. The foundation houses about $1.1 million in funds. A lot of it is through scholarships, okay? And some of it is through other aspects, but it really is a big housing of scholarships. And so it's got a lot of money that it houses. Every year, their tax returns get audited, and as part of that, the school board needs to review and acknowledge that they reviewed it. You're not agreeing with it, you're not stating that you fully understand it, you're just acknowledging that the board has reviewed the 2024 foundation tax returns. So, and as you know, Mr. Bailey is the elected, I guess you were elected, foundation representative. I'm on the board as well, along with, we're at 9 members now, so 7 others. You can add, thank you. So that's really what we're doing, is acknowledging that you have it, which is why it's for information and not for action. But happy to answer any questions. If it's specific to what the foundation is spending it on, then we have to come back to you with some answers. Here you have it, the 2024 foundation returns. Okay, thank you.
2026 State Education Convention.
Okay, so the state convention is starts on Tuesday, January 20th, and it runs through Friday, January 23rd, 2026. I've asked the board members to kind of RSVP. Originally, we had till the 23rd. That date still is in play. But if we would have met on December 10th, you would have obviously had a couple weeks to think about it. Now that day is tomorrow. So I reached out. I think I've received confirmation from everyone at this time, and I have updated board docs to reflect this. I believe we have 2 board members planning on attending the state convention. Erin Unbehan is the WSAB Assembly Delegate. Sheila Troxel is the Assembly Delegate Alternate. And I believe that I've heard that no other board members will be going. But if that changes, let me know tomorrow, or let Mrs. Coleman know tomorrow, and we will get you registered. After tomorrow, we'll release any hotels that we have available so that others can use it. So it doesn't mean you can't go should you decide later. It just means that you won't be spending time with us in the hotel. So, which may or may not be a benefit, I'm not sure. But please let me know if things have changed. And you do have all of the offerings there in PDF. Last thing I should say about that is in January, the board meeting in January, the board will get a list of the proposed Assembly Delegate resolutions that they will be acting on. Again, you've appointed Mr. Unbehan to vote on behalf of the board. But when you get those proposals or resolutions, proposed resolutions, it'll be an opportunity for you to, if you have a strong opinion one way or another, let Mr. Unbehan know what your feelings are. And again, ultimately, he's voting on behalf of the entire board, but it's your opportunity to weigh in on that. So that'll be coming in January as well. Any questions on the state convention? Okay, thank you.
2026 early graduates.
Again, this is nothing new to the board. If you're a new board member, it may be new to you, but each year we have a handful of students at the high school level who have met the graduation requirements or plan on meeting the graduation requirements at the end of a specific quarter. And by policy, they have to get approval from the board that they will be notified, the board has to be notified that they will be graduating early. So you have a list of 15 students on there that have applied for early graduation, either at the end of the first quarter or the end of the second quarter. In most cases, they're still invited. They will walk across the stage in June, but this is the list. It looks like it's been updated on December 15th. High school admin, anything else to add related to early grads? Any new applicants or anything?
As we get through Q3, there may be more additional ones. I just noted that that's happened in past year. And if there are any new names, we have a lot of students in different programming, which between Partner and Hive and our off campus, so they're all on different pathways, which allows them to get through if they want to get through faster and ready for what's to come after high school. So there were some new additions.
Any questions? Okay.
Q1 disciplinary report.
Okay, so each year the board is updated on discipline, or at least traditionally they have been at the end of each quarter. We had this on for November and then realized our Skyward information wasn't transferring correctly. So there's a change in Skyward that means we had to change our parameters. Long story short, you're getting this a little later than you normally would, but this is our Q1 disciplinary report. Just a couple of things that I saw, and then I'll allow each of our building admin to weigh in on anything that they want the board to be aware of, and then open it up for the board to answer any questions. Q1, when you look at that, the chart that's in the memo there, we're the 5th bar in the Q1, the light blue. You'll see that this quarter, generally speaking, is one of the lowest quarters that we've had in recent years, okay, as it relates to overall discipline. The chart in the memo not only shows the overall discipline by grade, but actually the number of unique students. And so one student could be responsible for 3 offenses. That's reflected in that chart there. You've got the raw data in a chart where you can see every, in the full PDF, you can see every grade, every discipline offense that we have, and the number of students that we have in that chart under the Q1 report. And then you've got the Q1 charts PDF, which is an opportunity to look at trend lines. Okay, so because we only have one quarter, there's only one line in this chart. As we get to Q2, there'll be a blue line for Q1 and a yellow line for Q2, and so on and so forth. And this encompasses past year's data, so that you can compare how does quarter one this year compare to previous year's quarter ones? And obviously, we'd like to see a particular trend, a trend going down, but we also want to be aware of opportunities, or excuse me, not opportunities, but be aware of times when trends are going up, all right? A couple of things to point out as you're looking at them. One, make sure that you're looking at the scale on the left. In other words, don't compare a chart that is scaled 0 to 10 the same way you would a 0 to 40, okay? Because where the line's at is obviously going to be different if the scale is different. So one, just be aware that there are some different scales. Most of them are 0 to 10, but there are a few 0 to 40. Secondly, I want you to know that we will be administratively looking more closely and examining the threat categories and how we report threats to make sure that all of our buildings are handling it the exact same way. Okay, we don't want one building counting it as a threat if a student says, I'm going to beat you up after school, right? That may be a threat, but it's not the intent of threat, right? It's a different category. That's completely different than a student saying, I'm going to bring a weapon and use it, okay? And so we're trying to make sure that our categories, or we will be trying to make sure that our categories are fully reflective of what we want the board to see and hear about as it comes to threats, because the board's going to want to know more about true threats compared to a verbal altercation. And then just some things that I saw, defiance of authority seems to be off to a better start this year than it has been in previous years. You can see a general trend going down. Violation of tech policy is almost non-existent. Cell phones, those are extremely low most likely because of the bell-to-bell ban that we have on cell phones. So you're going to see decreases in those areas as well. I think that's generally been well received by everyone. But with that, before I open it up to the board, I want our administration, building administration, to have an opportunity to weigh in on anything that they saw or anything that they want the board to be aware of. We'll start at the high school and then just go around. High school admin, do you have anything that you want to add as it relates to quarter one disciplinary reports?
You kind of stole the two, though, to talk about the defiance of authority. We're seeing way less of that in the high school building. Students are understanding, as our staff and everyone in our building continues to get more consistent with things. Our students are knowing what's expected of them. So I think defiance goes down when students understand the expectations that are asked of them. And then, again, the cell phones, this is district-wide in terms of this graph, the personal electronics violation, a big part of that is cell phones. Interestingly enough, we're seeing almost the same amount of AirPods or wireless headphones violation as we are cell phones. So students kind of understand their phones have to stay in their locker, but still attempt to try to use their AirPods, their wireless AirPods, which they can connect to their Chromebooks. So I think that's what's happening there. So I think that number, because that would still be coded with personal electronics, it's not just cell phones, it's that AirPods as well.
Mr. Armijo, anything you want to add from the intermediate school?
No, we're still in that process of learning and understanding as we go through with maybe in there, this is the first quarter, so looking at it from that perspective, I think things are going well. Engaging with the students has been exciting, and I think, I don't know what, can't compare to past because I'm new, but it seems to be going well.
And Mrs. Hardy, grab what you were saying. Primary school.
Yes. So we're seeing our students that have been with us for a few years have gotten in the groove of the expectations of the school with the Hornet Way and above the line, below the line, and bottom line language, and have the buy-in, and are trying to lead by example for the most part. Our kindergartners some of them had a real tricky start, going from 2 days a week to 5 days a week for some of them that were with us with 4K, and are still navigating what their place in space is and how to not be touching their neighbors so much. So we had an uptick in some of the pushing and being physical. And for some of them, it's really hard to understand those expectations and the follow-through that we have at school when they need to do something at a certain time and don't feel like it. So we do have a higher number of defiance with some of our younger pals to kick off the year. And we're still working through that with games, sometimes 2 step forward, 1 back, but still games, so we'll celebrate that.
And then these are our 3 main buildings, the primary school, the intermediate, and the high school. Partner is included in the high school. I Thrive is its own unique, setup. All the, where is, if there are any, where would the Hive be located? At the high school as well. Okay, so those are our common goals. Okay, with that, any questions from the board? Or anything that you would like more information? You see this 4 times a year, but yes.
Can I just add, I appreciate our families that work with us and team with us through some of these that are represented in front of you. They get calls at various times or emails, and we know they're busy because life happens for all of us. But we do appreciate their efforts in trying to team together, and some of those phone calls are hard to hear. And we want to celebrate as much as we can, and sometimes the no news is good news, because we don't always get the chances to make those celebration calls, but we try. So thank you to our families.
Thanks for having me. Board members?
I guess for all 3 buildings, are there any major needs that you're seeing that you need help with, that the board can be assistance with, whether it's tools, resources, that kind of thing?
I'm thinking here, nothing's jumping out to me, but we'll certainly think about that and put a new report back, so it pops in our head.
Nothing for me at this point.
Continue to support the social emotional learning. We work really hard on that with our school counselor, with our student support team, small groups, a lot of check-ins in the morning to have soft starts or soft landings for our pals throughout the day. And just being supportive of that it's really taken off in the primary building this past year. And so continue to have that happen and have value vested in that.
Thank you.
I would like to, at some point, if you could show us a little bit of more data around the disaggregation of this, if it's available. So how many of these students are students with disabilities? How many of these students are multilingual learner students? I just would be curious to know if there's a trend in any of that, and if there's anything that, again, the board could do, or maybe just that we're more aware. This raw number is great, but I would like to know a little bit more.
Thank you. Anything else? Great, thank you.
DPI district report card.
Okay, so every school district in Wisconsin gets a report card from the Department of Public Instruction. Ours came out several weeks ago now, but wanted to make sure that the board fully understood what they were seeing and how it works, at least at a high level. DPI report cards are not that different from school finance. It's a big puzzle, right? But we want you to make sure that you have at least some of the tools and understand what it means. So with that, turn it over to Dr. Sherry Johnson, our Director of Curriculum Instruction.
Good evening, everybody. Hopefully you had a chance to take a look at the slideshow that was in your packet. It'll be up here in a second. On the very first page, there's a live link to the actual district report card. So if you should want to look directly at it, it's right there. You can also go on the DPI's website and look at everybody's. You can also break it down by building. So those are some things to think about. Oh, wait, get it
so that the people out there can see it.
Anyway, I'll keep going so that way I don't want to take a lot of your time. I know you have a lot to discuss yet tonight. So the first slide that will come up here shortly is showing that we as a district are a 4-star district out of 5. We also, the high school is a 4-star school out of 5, and the intermediate school is also a 4-star school out of 5. So report cards are different from assessments. So they're scored using multiple non-assessment based measures. So including attendance, chronic absenteeism, and graduation rates. And they also do non-score data, including like course and program data, 3rd grade reading scores, and something new this year is state law violations. So that's a new layer to this. Keep in mind that think of this as like a new person moving into the community. Actually, real estate agents use this information when people want to move here. So it's really important that we understand what's on here.
Sorry for them, so.
All right. Are you good with me keeping? Are you able to see it on your screen?
They should have the PDF in their board docs or in their packets.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to keep going. This is slide 3 that we're on. So it's a comparison chart. So on this chart, it kind of shows you year over year what our scores are versus ourselves. And then it shows we have district, and then broken down by high school, intermediate. And then at the very end of the chart, it shows partner, the primary, and ROA. The reason I say ROA on here is because all of this information is the 24-25 school year, and that's what that school was called last year. This next year it will be called Hive on this chart. Anyways, those 3 columns, partner, primary, and ROA, have NA, not applicable, because those students, there's not enough of them that took this state assessment to actually be able to use the data and the information. The primary doesn't use any state, they don't do any state testing, so they aren't included in this. The next chart is priority weighting areas. And there are 4 priority weighting areas that they utilize. There's achievement, growth, target group outcomes, and on track to graduate. So we have, as a district, and actually in our CESA 3, we are the district in CESA 3 that has the highest economically disadvantaged students in all of the 31 school districts. So that impacts what our priority areas look like. And I kind of want to wait so you can see this chart. It's kind of an important one because it really, the circle chart, you'll see the top half is between achievement and growth. And because of our economically disadvantaged numbers, achievement is a tiny, tiny slice, and growth is a majority of the 50%, the top half. So, and I think that it's also important to mention that this school year, this 24-25 report card is going to be the new baseline for report cards. It feels like every time I come up here and tell you about new data, and let's look at this data versus last year's data versus the year before, they always change things, so we can't exactly compare this year to last year. And they've done that again. Improvements, right? That's what this is all about. But it's really important that we acknowledge that you can't truly, if you want to get granular, it's not comparable. But we're going to kind of look at it like it is comparison today, because it's really what the information we have. The things that are staying, that are the same, are growth, attendance, and absenteeism, and graduation. So, but you can see at the top half, as I'm talking about, growth is huge. So for achievement, this is really just all scale scores about our forward tests, which is 3rd through 8th grade, and some 10th grade testing. It's our ACT, our pre-ACT / ACT Aspire, and it's also, it doesn't include our DLM. So those tests are really the main information that's used to inform this. So you'll see that we are below the state average in both English language arts, which I call ELA, and math. Our achievement score is putting us at higher than only 17.6 districts in the state. But this is only 2 years of data. So we are hoping that as all these improvements that we've been making will come up to the top and help push us over. Students are learning and growing significantly. I'll show you in the next slide in math, but we are still below the statewide average. Our curriculum adoption information that we've talked about, teacher retention is a big situation that we have in math especially. We've had a lot of turnover in our math instruction, and so that's something that we consider when we look at some of this information, like why is this happening? So we are trying to figure out all the pieces so we can help move the needle. Something else to consider is the state test preparation, just FYI. The state not requires, but really wants every district to test about 95% of students in your district. That's what they feel gives you a good sampling so you understand if students are learning. And for years and years, we didn't get that. And we actually were at 96% this year, so that's a good thing. So for growth, this is the area where we excelled the most. This measures how much students' performance change from year to year, and it really takes a look at, it's a value-added model, so it doesn't just take the straightforward test results, it takes a look at how they've done in years past, and then takes a look at what this next year happened, what happened this year, and kind of makes that all work together to tell the story. So it's a fair comparison, and actually the growth is the truth. The growth is the main story that you really want to understand. We want to make sure students are growing. So students, especially those who are behind, are catching up academically, and actually at the same rate as our students who are not in the growth area, and I'll show you that in a second here. We are higher than 93.4% of the districts in the state of Wisconsin in this area. Target group outcomes. So the state of Wisconsin identifies who our target group is. These are the kids who were identified as not, they have low attendance, they have, their test scores are low, those types of things, and they kind of follow them to make sure they're growing. It's kind of a mini report card for our lowest performing students. And you'll see in the English language arts area, they were the same as our non-target groups. So it's extremely strong, 86.9% in ELA growth, and our math group growth was 66. It's also strong, not as strong as ELA though. Our achievement is low, but that's consistent with some statewide trends. But we are aware and we are trying to figure out how to best support that. And then the graduation rates we'll talk about in a little while. This kind of breaks it out. It shows you a little bit better. You'll look at the left side where achievement is, our target group versus our non-target group. So like that's our 25th percentile below is the green bar, and then the gray bar below it is the rest of the students. And it's significantly different. We don't want that. We want everybody achieving at the same rates. However, you look over onto the right side, and both groups are growing at the same rate in ELA. The only difference is our target group had farther to grow. That's why their achievement is so low. They started at a lower spot. They're still growing at the same rate as the rest, but they just aren't able to catch up because they were so low to start. ELA is exactly the same. Math is just a little bit lower in the target group versus the non-target group. So for chronic absenteeism and graduation, this is kind of a conundrum. We are discovering, as Ms. Tricia Lewis and I are digging into a lot of our data, especially the information that goes from Skyward to WISE. WISE is the special holding spot that DPI has, where they suck all of our information in. Not all of our information is proper. So we discovered a lot of things that are going to help this information next year. This is going to look a lot better. Chronic absenteeism isn't going to look this way. We actually contacted Platteville and they helped us with some of our back-end coding so we can make sure that we are similar to other districts that we know are showing to have higher rates, and then also graduation rates. We looked at the students and our non-graduates, our dropouts, and some of them weren't even students that, like one was an 8th grader, things like that. It was just messy. So that a lot of that information is getting cleaned up. So I'm really confident that this information is going to be better next year. All right, priority area, this is the same information, some of it. So this is something to look at. This is like a quick snapshot. The on track to graduate is really important. But you'll see, we only scored higher than 4.5 districts in the state. The reason for that is our achievement in, well, it's all of them really. We're below the state average in every one of these things. So in chronic absenteeism, we're lower than the state average in graduation rates. But I told you, those are going to be better next year. Now, for 3rd grade English and 8th grade math, those are found in a lot of different areas in our report card. They're really important. Data has shown that if you look at students' performances in those 2 grades and those 2 content areas, it will make or break them. If they are doing well at this point in their life in 3rd grade and 8th grade in those areas, they will do well the rest of the time. And so we aren't at the state average yet. We're well below it in mathematics especially. So these are some things that we're trying to figure out. Getting students engaged in the content is a really big part of it, especially in math. And with new staff constantly turning over, it's hard to engage people when you don't know them. So every time we get a new staff member, students need to get to know them. So we're hoping no one's turning over this next year in our math department, and so we can start to grow some of those relationships and then grow the scores. And the rest of this information is a little more straightforward. We've got high above state average advanced course, the kids who take AP classes. Dual enrollment numbers are low, but I also discovered, and so Tricia found the same thing, is that we didn't have all of our classes coded properly in Skyward to make it pull as dual enrollment. And credentials, we are working on that. Purchased a resource, the ICEV, that our tech ed department has been using to get students industry recognized credentials, as well as youth apprenticeship does the same thing. And work-based learning. 17 students participated in a work-based learning program. That's partner, essentially. Okay. And then this is 23-24 information. So this is 2 years ago now, but this is our art participation. Above average for art, for music, for theater. Something new on the report card this year is the 3rd grade reading. So this is the 3rd time you've seen 3rd grade reading. Do you think it's important? It's extremely important. And so as we are learning more about how this process works, as we are training teachers in that whole Act 20 presentation that you listened to, probably a while ago now, but we are doing a lot of work to move the needle on this area. The content that we are using, the Into Reading for our elementary students, is a good resource. We are getting more support from the DPI and what their look-fors are, and we are hoping that it will all make a difference, as well as our teachers' training and knowledge through letters training too. So this is that part about the state and local law violations. This is the stuff, that realtors this is going to be on there when people move here. Community members are going to see this, that we had 4.6 for every 100 students enrolled here that had a charge filed for a citation issued to them versus the state's 1.3. And then they have different categories. You can see above, I'm not going to go through all those, but we're higher than the state average also in those areas. That's something I didn't really dig into, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit more as admin to try to figure out what's this tied to and how can we impact it positively. I'm not sure why that's not coming up, but anyway, you can see it in your presentations. There's a whole bunch of comparisons. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I wanted you to see where we fell as far as we've got the district conference. So we fell 3rd in the district conference. And then, they're finally loading here. Oh, and then this is the local districts. It just has a little different look. These are the people who we are competing with for open enrollment. And then this is for high school. This is our conference. We're 2nd in the high school for conference. And then for, this is the local high schools. Anyway, I'm not going to go through all these. These are for you to kind of peruse. They're kind of fun to see where we fall in all these areas. The most important thing is that our students are learning and growing. That growth score, we should be super proud of that. That means that students are growing at a really great rate. That progress is a springboard for us, and so we really want to help make sure that we're getting kids on the right path, meeting their needs, and ensure that all of our students succeed. Does anybody have any questions for me? Thanks, Dr. Johnson.
On to action items, early college credit program, ECCP request for spring 2026.
Okay, so twice a year, before each semester starts, the board has to approve students who are looking to take one or two courses at a college or a technical college. Oftentimes you will see students that have more than two courses listed, but then they should also have alternates next to them. So if they don't get into one, they've got an alternate that has been approved by the board as well. Over in the second column to the right, in the chart there, you'll see comparable RCHS course, and there's some letters in there. NCC plus FGR means that there's no comparable course, NCC, no comparable course, but fills a graduation requirement. And so with that, that means that the district, that's in the blue, that the district would pay 75% and the student would pay, or excuse me, the state would pay 25%, the pupil doesn't pay any. All right? You don't see any of the other combinations in this particular list, or at least I didn't see any in this particular list, but the other categories, the district may not be on the hook for any of it, family may be on the hook for all of it, or there's a different breakdown. For this particular list, this is for the spring, should list all of the students, the courses that they are looking to take. They're all college courses, right? So just because it might have a name, these are college courses that they can get credit for through this state program, and the credits that are aligned to it, and the percentage that the student pays, excuse me, as relates to the district. Mr. Lemke, Ms. Perkins, anything you want to add regarding ECCP or Sherry? Good? All right. Does the board have any questions? Any questions on that?
I have a question.
Yes.
Maybe just for general purposes, can you give us a couple examples of the benefits, long-term benefits of students taking these? How that impacts their post-secondary and maybe choice of where they go next?
Yeah, a lot of these students have a certain pathway already that they have planned. So a lot of these courses apply to what they're going to do after high school. And we'll note a couple of them see CISA funding. A lot of these are YA students as well. So they're taking these courses that applies to whatever they plan to do after high school. Does that help answer your question? Yeah, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the 2026 spring ECCP early college credit program and start college now, college up courses as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Mrs. Sharp. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Troxel. Discussion? Mrs. Thompson?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Waive components of policy 8510 wellness.
Okay, just to bring everyone up to speed, at the October 29th meeting, which seems like a long time ago, but was actually just 2 meetings ago, the board saw some components that we were looking at waiving of policy 8510 wellness, and Mr. Bosworth said we're just going through this DPI audit. There may be some additional components with that, and then it was ultimately determined by the board, let's not act on it now, let's just bring it all back and act on it at once. So that's what we're doing, right? We're bringing this back. These are things that just locally, in our local policy, we're in contradiction of, okay? Because of the way the scheduling is set, or the way that the bus routes are determined, and so, or a variety of things like that. But what we're asking is that we waive our local policy for the components that are listed here for the rest of this year, knowing that as we're building next year's schedules and as we're building next year's bus routes and working with all of the different folks that have to do this, that we will be able to adhere to all of the policies at that point. But because we're in the middle of the year, to us, it didn't make a lot of sense to blow up the whole schedule to get students, 5 extra minutes of recess, and when we can build that into next year's component. That's just one example. So all the different components of policy 8510 are listed in here. Before I ask the board for questions, I should ask Mr. Bosworth, since you dealt with a lot of this, anything you want to add or that I'm missing regarding that?
I would just explain the process. We have a health coordinator who led a committee made up mainly of staff people, maybe some students, a couple community members that did a review of our wellness policy, and they recognized some of these places where we're out of compliance. And so a lot of these, a lot of language came right from that.
Thank you. The rest of the policy would stay intact as it's written. Again, it would just be waiving the components as presented.
All right, is there a motion to waive the selected sections of policy 8510, wellness through June 30th, 2026, as presented? Motion made by Mrs. Thompson, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bailey, discussion? Mr. Drexel?
Aye.
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 The McKinstry Group update and additional scope of work.
Okay, so back in August, the board had, as part of referendum funds, approved McKinstry to come in, and you see the 3-year cost there, front-loaded, so that was taken out of referendum dollars, and then years 2 and 3 out of budget dollars. With the possible acquisition of campus property, Mr. Bosworth has reached out and see what it would cost to add that. I think maybe I'll just turn it over. John, can you fill in the rest to introduce these folks? Are you okay with that?
Totally fine with that, yep. So if you remember McKinstry Consultants, they're going to help us analyze all of our physical assets and come up with a great heat map and a long-term plan, and they'll probably touch on that a little bit. So they're here for mainly 2 reasons. One is to give you an update because they've been on site and they've been through our buildings and they've done some work already. And then number 2, because we're very likely to be adding some more buildings, we're going to ask that McKinstry can be involved in those buildings as well.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that quick intro. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us here this evening. Yeah, just wanted to share a quick progress update. We are with McKinstry out of the Madison, Wisconsin office. My name is Lou Lohr. I'm a lead facilities consultant with the team.
And I'm Chris Jones. Good evening.
And so we had already been on site to your 4 facilities, the high school, primary school, intermediate school, and public charter school. I just want to give a quick snapshot of current progress and then really share a timeline of what we're expecting for the final coming to what we're going to reveal here. So this presentation was provided prior to the last meeting, so right now the star has moved. We're a couple weeks out here. We are currently in the what we call quality control phase. So we were on site, gathered all the asset data, brought it back, got it uploaded into computers, and so we're working through the data, getting the data organized, and then really put together what we call a workbook, and we provide a court QC on the data, and that's associating estimated costs, asset kind of timelines, when they should be replaced, condition of overall assets as they relate to the buildings. And so we're expecting quality control to kind of go through end of December into January, and we're looking at kind of a final report development and presentation end of January to early February at this point. So of the 4 facilities, we've gathered 430 plus assets. I estimate we'll probably be closer to 440 once QC is done. This is just a quick glimpse at kind of the types of assets and categories that we captured while we were on site. So we've got kind of the full gamut of facility assets. Exterior enclosure, the D30, that's a lot of HVAC equipment. So you have your boilers, chillers, air handling units, rooftop units, and whatnot. We've got fire protection, electrical, site improvement, and then beside electrical utilities, so that's generators, associated with equipment. So 431 currently in the workbooks. Like I said, I expect that to go up a few more once we're done here. This included getting on site, interviewing the team. So we met with Mark, Chris, John, Brian, walked around with Mullins, all the buildings, really got to know kind of how the buildings are functioning, how the assets are, and based on, just comparison with other districts we've walked, the teams here have done a great job. There was really nothing that stuck out as far as, safety concerns or hazards. Buildings here are functioning well. Just kind of a testament to the maintenance teams here doing a great job keeping up with the buildings kind of behind the scenes, as we like to say. So as I said, as we work through the data, what we're really looking to do is provide a more realistic view of when assets should be replaced. So a lot of industry standards, when you get a boiler, you get the standard industry template that says a high condensing boiler will last 25 years. We like to come in and put our eyes on a piece of equipment and talk to the teams. So we like to see kind of what the teams have been doing with the piece of equipment. Are they maintaining it? Making sure things are being done on time. And then we'll do an estimate cost on it. That's the cost to yank the boiler out, replace it with a like-for-like boiler. And then those two combined is kind of how we get to your capital projection costs. So that's what will be in the workbook and on the final reveal. And when I say reveal, that's the website that we'll upload all the data to. And it really is just a workbook in an easier to digest kind of website. And so the district can use this data to help with capital planning and be able to see all 400 plus assets on the website. We'll do a condition score to each and every one of them along with costs and timeline. And so with this tool, we'll be able to kind of better plan for capital replacement costs of the assets in the school district. And over to Chris.
As Mr. Bosworth alluded to, as our team had started the study, we were notified that the district had acquired 2 additional buildings and asked us to come up with what the additional cost would be to incorporate those 2 buildings, so either the campus, gymnasium, and instructional building, into the same scope of what you just presented. So we would look at the same scope of assets within those 2 buildings. You would use our expert analysis to be able to collect that data, do the site visits, collect the data, analyze the data, issues log creation, any major safety or hazard issues that we would find. We would then incorporate the assets for those 2 additional buildings into that reveal website and database that New just showed a screen capture of. And so for us to do that and incorporate that, there would be an additional fee of $12,900. And we do have capacity and would be able to start that process when approved by the district. And we would do that through a very simple change order to bring that into the current scope. So with that, that is the update. It's our presentation. So we're happy to answer any questions that folks might have.
Just one, at least from an operational standpoint, it's the $12,900. The previous cost was divided in 3 years. Is this the first year, and the subsequent years would not change? Does this number need to be divided by 3? Is this an annual cost?
So that's a great question. So we do have, as you know, the 3-year program, a larger upfront investment to collect all those assets and the data, and then drops off significantly. We go into more of a support role. So the $12,900 it's just for that, coming on site, collecting the data, doing the analysis of that. We were able to absorb, including those additional 2 buildings, in the year 2 and 3 with no additional cost to the district.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
I'd also just like to add that the initial schedule was for just the 4 buildings, so if we do decide to to move forward with these two additional buildings. As long as the district can accommodate us on site in January, we're looking at pushing the timeline another 3 to 4 weeks. So we'll probably be looking at end of February for final presentation. If you wanted them grouped in, otherwise we could move forward with what we have now and then just do the two other buildings separately. So we can kind of work with the district on timeline in that manner.
We could do a step 1, step 2, and complete the data we currently have, survey these later, and then do an update at whatever time the district wishes. Or as Lou said, we would have to, the target date of that presentation of the final deliverable, we would just move that out 3 to 4 weeks if you'd like the additional 2 buildings included in the kind of that first presentation.
Maybe this question can't be answered, but with the purchase having not gone through yet, timeline for that and then being able to do the assessments.
Read my mind. So if this is something that the board is interested in adding the cost on, I would ask the board to give us some administrative discretion on when it comes back to the board, whether it's in one part or two, for that very reason. We will have to work with the county on getting access to everything. If it looks like the closing date is going to be, realistic, we'll be able to, that'll be easier. If it looks like it's going to get stretched out due to surveying, those kinds of things. So if the board approves it, I guess I would ask that you just give us a little bit of time, John and I and Chris and Mark, and working with McKinstry on when we can get in and then make a decision on what's best for reporting back to the board in one time or in two. If you're okay with that.
Well, exactly what I was getting at was if this phase of it is delayed, does it make sense to wait on reporting on the rest of the project? And then just have a secondary. Seems to make sense to me.
And I would say right now, we will continue with the current contract and developing that to present. And the district can notify us through Mr. Bosworth and team if you do get access and you want to make arrangements for us to come on and do those additional 2 buildings. So you can just let us know.
So we would be looking for a motion and action if the board is interested in doing this, an additional cost of $12,900. That would be funded through referendum and/or bond proceeds, and then no changes to years 2 and 3 as presented.
Is there a motion to approve amending the agreement with McKinstry Consulting to add the gym in Melville Hall to the year 1 facility assessment scope, contingent upon the district's acquisition of these facilities at an additional cost of $12,900 to be funded through referendum savings and/or bond proceeds with no changes to the year 2 and year 3 costs as presented.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Dowden. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Aye.
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 Thanks, folks. When you get the
Thank you.
change order done, you can send it over to Mr. Boswell.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Referendum and projects update and alternate projects.
Okay, so this is kind of twofold here. One, to give the board and our community kind of an update on where we're at with the referendum, and then 2, to look at some possible alternate projects. And of course, the board can't make decisions on alternate projects without a budget update as well, so we'll get that in as well. With that, I will turn it over to our directors of operations and maintenance, Chris Cook and Mark Noble.
Yeah, thank you for having us here to present what's been done at the school with referendum at this point. I'll start down at the primary school as far as what's been done there. A lot of things have been done outside to prep for the new kindergarten rooms down there. I'm happy to say they are up, and we don't have any issues with the rooms at this point. Over the Thanksgiving break, the temporary wall, or dividing the school from the new rooms, did come down. So they're able to see the outside and just how nice those rooms look. We gave them just a little window to peek through. We didn't want the teachers in there quite yet because there was still more being done. At this point with the rooms, all items have been installed within the rooms, so the islands, the cubbies, boot racks, cabinets. Those have all been installed. Waiting on a few small items to still be delivered in those rooms before they're completely finished. So there's a new fob system as well that was installed at the primary school, which is currently up and running. Teachers are using their fobs to enter rooms. Over this Christmas break, since they have been using their fobs for a couple weeks now, we will end up changing fours out. So they will only be limited to just using the fob system. So haven't had any complaints at this point on using the fobs. We've had some small issues with certain doors not working, which we have been working through to try and get those fixed before we make the switch over. Small issues in the HVAC system, since it's a completely brand new system. They're making little small tweaks and changes in it to get it to work, to make it as comfortable for the teachers and students. So that should be done over the Christmas break here. Hopefully, by the time that the teachers come back from break on the 5th, they will be in those rooms instructing the kids. So, big exciting part in the timeline for this referendum with the kids and teachers in those rooms. As far as everything else outside that still needs to be completed, we'll have to wait till the spring, snow melts, and they'll be able to get outside and make it look like it was before they started.
Intermediate school, we'll update on that. The new set of bathrooms down by the gym, those are completed, they're up and functional. They're still working on the coaches room and that restroom. They have replaced some lighting in the building. They will continue to replace lights over Christmas break. We're going to do the gym area. The second set of bathrooms are totally demolished and they're starting to rebuild those. They continue to work on roughing plumbing, running some electrical work, so they have a head start on the spring. The playground has a fence around it completely. The basketball court is done, the roofs are up. They're going to replace the windows this winter. Just a lot of behind-the-scenes work this winter in the spring. And that's about it.
So a lot of the work that's being done at the intermediate and the high school, they're trying to get little small projects out of the way to lessen the load when it comes to the summer, which will be doing the majority of the work in the intermediate and the high school. So starting in, they haven't given us an exact date yet, but mid-January they're going to start working on the auditorium here at the high school. So it's going to be running conduit, running wires with new lights, hanging new light fixtures. We'll have them workable at some point so we can run, the new lighting within the auditorium. A lot of the sound equipment, stage work, carpet will not be done until the summer, just because we have so many events that are held within that auditorium. We want to wait until the last dance recital happens there and then it'll all be torn apart. Brand new. As far as the other project that we're working on, concession stand, a lot of that's been worked through and a lot of new things that are up at this point. We were waiting on the fascia and soffit on that building. We had a 5 to 6 week delay on that product. It is here, it's installed. We're simply waiting at this point to put lights and cameras on the outside. There's small little things on the inside we still have to do is hang partitions within the bathrooms. And then the final step is just to paint the walls within every room. So shortly, hopefully within a couple weeks, concession stand will be done and turned back to us.
I should add, we did cease any work being done during the school day at the intermediate school. The noise and construction as they moved to that second set of bathrooms that are a little closer to the academics was just disruptive and not an environment where students could learn. So they're doing work in the morning, but they have to be done by 7:30, and then if the contractors can come in, after students, they can do that as well. but they're primarily trying to do the majority of the work over Christmas break, spring breaks, those extended breaks, things like that. But we did have to cease that. It just was a little bit more disruptive than what we wanted. But I'm going to pause there and see if the board has any questions on just a general update before we get into budget and possible additions for our experts on this. Anything that we missed from the ad hoc committee that you want to add? Okay. All right. So with that, let's turn our attention then to where are we at from a budget standpoint. So I refer to the memo in board docs. This is information as of the end of November. Again, it was getting ready for the December 10th meeting. Some of the wording may have changed just slightly in board docs, but the numbers didn't. I just, as I was reviewing this in the last few days, tried to make it a little bit more clear to folks what they were looking at. So I'm just going to walk through each section of the memo or in your book, starting with the top. Those were our initial scopes. High school project, roofing project came in under budget. Green is good as it relates to budget, so it came in under budget, negative number, just under $1 million. Primary school was, scope was about $700,000 over budget. Intermediate school, again, was under budget. High school, over budget. So those were the initial scopes. And when you look at those 4 components, district-wide at this point is no, district-wide would be things like internet infrastructure, those kinds of things. Those are right on budget. We don't anticipate any, they came in right where we needed to be. So those scopes came in, we were under budget by just under $600,000. That's the green line, budget plus or minus, under budget by $600,000, which means we had that extra money to spend. Since the referendum is passed, the board has approved really 5 components that were project add-ons, okay? 3 of them were the 3 different building IMC upgrades. The IMC upgrades that you'll see here in the high school, the same or similar project happened at the intermediate school as well as the primary school. Those are those top 3 numbers. Back in August, the board approved just under $100,000 to the McKinstry Group, that initial fee for year 1. Of course, now after this previous agenda item, that will be increased by another $12,000 and some change. And then the big change order that needed to happen was the soil corrections at the primary school. We just again, got into more bad soil than we needed to. The board took action at the end of August. That was an additional $500,000. So with those commitments, the board added additional costs of just over $1.2 million. When you take the budget savings of $594,000 and the budget adds of $1.24, the total impact of the budget was we were over budget by $650,000. This might be where there's slight word changing. Now I've got it listed as total impact of budget. In your books, printed books, it might say net plus or minus. But the total impact of budget, when you consider all of that, is $650,000 over budget. All right. Then the next 2 lines, we are currently carrying, of course this number fluctuates. Anytime there's a change event or different, we learn more information, they get into a wall, realize something that they thought might be there wasn't there and it saved us money, or something that they've got to fix because it wasn't there or it's bad, has to be replaced. That adds money. This contingency number is a very fluid number. At the time of this report, we had just under $750,000 in contingency remaining. That's all contingencies, any change orders that take place. And we have an estimated bond proceeds of just shy of $1.4 million. You've heard Mr. Bosworth and PMA talk at different times. Much of our bond proceeds are locked into fixed interest rates, so regardless of what the feds do with their percentages, that won't be changed, but we do still have money in liquid funds as well. And so as percentage rates change, that number could increase or decrease. And I believe that the Fed's just lowered rates a little bit, so it's likely that bond proceeds may come down slightly. But, well, every dollar matters. We don't see those as being significant. So that first horizontal green line that says funding remaining after committed projects, that is the net sum of the $650,000 over budget, the $750,000 quote-unquote savings / contingency that we have, and the untouched bond proceeds just shy of $1.4 million, which gives us just shy of $1.5 million that we have remaining. Okay. Then, in the next section, these are possible projects. In the next two sections, they're possible projects. They're broken up into recommended projects that the board, that we're actually looking for the board to take action on tonight. Okay, it's been reviewed by our ad hoc construction committee. They are also making this recommendation. And projects that we recommend waiting on. Now I want to clarify that the projects that we recommend waiting on, we're not saying we should not do any of them. Okay, we're simply saying there's no advantage to approving them tonight. Okay, there are advantages to approving the first four tonight. And we'll walk through those. So the first line item there is full bathroom remodels to our 3 public restrooms here at the high school. So we'll be down on the athletic end, the ones here in the middle, just off the end of this IMC, and then the ones down in the fine arts end. The original scope was just to replace some sinks and some painting. Once we saw what the bathrooms were going to look like at the intermediate, or excuse me, at the primary school, like, we need to do this in all of them. At least that's what we felt. It would make it easier to clean, and it's open to the public, something that we should be looking at. That'll come at a cost of $175,000. That's a firm price that we've gotten from Nexus via their contractors, something that we're recommending. Why now? Because it's going to be cheaper for the contractors to do that work once they start tearing things apart and they have people on site than it will be if we decide to add that on a year from now. Okay, so as they're planning, they can do it at that cost. The Hive Drive improvements, this is something we'll partner with the city. We have not actually taken formal action, but that is something that the board is committed to doing. The city's working through their grant. They've been approved for the grant, but they've had to since submit to the holders of the grant, what is the project going to entail? They've now done that. We don't know if they'll be able to do it this next summer or not. There will be some economy of scale with folks being on site if they can do it next summer, but that's a placeholder. Making our commitment to fund our half of Hive Drive as it sits in the current budget of $167,000. Upgrades to the intermediate school at the health and office upgrades. Getting our students that are sick into an area where they can be cared for by a nurse in a facility or an area just off the office, in another room, and getting that out of the office will be advantageous. Using and reconstructing right now there's 2 restrooms which were used as sick bays in the intermediate school office. Using one of those for office restrooms and the other to be closed off from the office end and allowed staff to enter from the hallway will then be a staff bathroom, and then where the current staff bathrooms are, restrooms are, that will be part of this health improvement. Okay, and allow for our nurse and our counselors to be able to care for these students in a little bit more of a private setting. And then that'll come at $69,000. And then finally, now that the primary school is winding down in terms of major interior construction to get those main hallways painted, that can be something that can be done this winter yet. Ideally here in the next 60 days, if we give the go-ahead, just shy of $19,000, so that all of our main hallways have a fresh coat of paint. If you've been down there, we need to paint them, and it'll tie it all in together. So if you look at those recommended projects, that comes at an additional cost of $430,000. If you approved them, if the board approved them, that would still leave us with just over $1 million remaining in contingency and bond proceeds. Other projects that we've asked Nexus to look at, but we're recommending to just hold off on those. Bus lane improvement at the intermediate school, as we've got a chance to see what that looks like. We may not even need to do that. We still want to examine that, but we want to work it and wait until we've got a little bit more data to collect. Additional stalls at the primary school, something that we likely will want to add if the funding is available, but they can't do it right now anyway, right? They're not going to be able to get in there until at least middle of April, possibly May. So again, no reason to act on that right now. And the same with the intermediate school painting upgrades, similar to the the primary school. We're not going to go in and paint all the hallways, only to tear everything apart and create a mess. We'll do that at the very end if the board deems that that is something that they want to do. And then the other component that's not even on here, because we just simply don't know at this point, with the possible, or looks to be imminent acquisition of the buildings at the campus, we may need to, or may want to, allocate some of the savings costs that we have to those buildings to get them up and running for educational and or other uses. Something that would likely happen once we know a little bit more where we're at in this. Finally, I draw your attention to the very last line there in blue, recommended amount to reserve. Because that $750,000, $748,000 is all of the contingencies. Nexus has advised us, because we still have a large amount of work to do at the intermediate school, large amount of work to do yet here at the high school, you can't run that contingency dry. You have to allow for the unknowns. And so they are recommending that we leave and don't account for more, and make sure that we account for at least $500,000 in contingency funds. So while you could approve the recommendations that we're recommending on hold now, again, we're proposing to wait on all of those. That will allow us plenty of room to have contingencies available. It will allow us plenty of opportunity to see what Nexus and McKinstry come back with on what work needs to be done at campus, so we can properly allocate the funds that we have remaining to the areas that are most important to us. There's a lot, but that kind of all-encompassing, and then I'll ask for if you have any questions. Recommendation made to the ad hoc committee. They first saw it for review. It came back to them prior to tonight's meeting. They are also recommending that we move forward with the 4 recommended additional projects. So you've got the full scope of the budget, and I'm happy to answer any questions on that and or any questions that you may have related to the possible projects, either recommended or recommended to wait. And committee members, jump in if I missed anything.
I guess for me, with also not knowing what McKinsey is going to come back with their reports on things that we might not realize that are at the minute have to take care of, makes sense to me that we only do the recommended project proposal.
So this is on for action, so we'll be looking for a motion and action on whatever that motion ends up being. Again, our recommendation, the committee's recommendation is to move forward with the recommended projects. That would still leave us with about $1 million, or just north of $1 million in remaining funds when this is all said and done, which does include the contingencies, so there's a little bit of an unknown. Okay, with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Is there a motion to approve recommended alternate projects of RCHS bathroom remodels, Hive Drive improvements, RCIS health upgrades, and RCPS painting upgrades at a budgeted cost of $430,562 as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Made by Ms. Troxel, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Dowd, discussion? Mr. Mailing?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. I'll make the motion to move into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851C and F to review confidential pupil record information related to expelled students' academic progress, and to consider administrative employment and compensation matters. At the conclusion of the closed session, the board will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? That is Ms. Sharp. Any discussion? Mrs. Sharp?
Aye.
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 Thank you.